Hi, I'm Leander Gonsalves, and we are representing the first group. And our topic is A Tale of Two Nations, Ghana and South Korea. And I will be the one answering the first slide. So, the first question that I was given with it was, what was Ghana trying to achieve with its post-independence policies towards international trade, and why these policies didn't have an intended effect? So as we all know that when Ghana gained independence, Kwame Nkrumah was selected and elected as the first president of Ghana, and he set out to achieve certain policies for the Ghana country in order to make sure that Ghana is brought among the world and they strive really hard to make a mark for themselves. So the certain aim that he had for his country after the post-independence and the policies that he provided, the first aim was to be self-sufficient. So Ghana was actually a country which majorly depended on the imports from various parts of the world. He wanted to make sure that the local businesses from the country are grown. So he made sure that there are some high tariffs on the imports that take place in Ghana, so that the local investors or the local groups, business groups, can grow within themselves and they don't really have to depend on any foreign products or something like that. Uh, the second point was a unity between African nations. So he strived really hard with his policies to make sure that all the African nations across the continent are maintain that unity in a dignified way, so that those countries can come together, they can have a mutual opinion or mutual respect among themselves, and it can also help in the business and all the investing portions of that thing. Also, the third point was attracting foreign investors. So, as you know, that Ghana was a major producer of cocoa. So, Kwame Nkrumah made sure that the brand is spread, the word is spread across the world, so that the investors from various foreign countries can come in and they can invest their money on the production of cocoa, and it can gain them huge benefits from that. Also, his vision was to lead the country to progress in health and education. So most of the youngsters in that country were up to the health and education, where they can focus mainly on that and they don't have to depend on anyone for that. So when certain educations and schooling started, the youngsters focus on that part, so that, and the medical facilities also grew in that country. But most of the policies had to fail, and they failed because of certain of this points which were the negative effects. So the first one was poor planning that he did. So mainly instead of increasing the tariffs was a good step, but at times it really receded the development of Ghana, where he also started charging a lot from the farmers. So he really started paying the farmers pretty less money rather than they would get it in the world market, which really was detrimental to the farmers who were in the cocoa production. Also, the main thing that he built a dam with those, and he built a dam and which led them to a huge debt, because of which he had to start charging more taxes on the cocoa thing. So which was very poor planning, as it affected his own country and they were in a lot of debt. Also dictatorship, where he himself declared as a president for life and he never really valued anyone's opinion on that. So that was something that really led to the failure of his policies by his own. Lack of attention on the Ghana population. So he mainly, as I mentioned in the third point, he was mainly focused on attracting the foreign investors, which really did let him pay any attention on his own country people regarding that, and his own country people felt let down, as they were the one who had to bear the brunt of debts or the imports or exports regarding that. Also ignoring advices from economic advisors. So his economic advisor, mainly Arthur Lewis, who was well versed with the Ghana policies and all the studies regarding that. but he was really giving advices about how to lead the situation. But that was something that he didn't pay attention. He followed his own path, and most of the times it led to failure regarding his own path. So these were the reasons due to which the policies failed, and that's why he was ousted from his term as presidency from Ghana. So that was my slide, and thank you so much.
Hello, my name is Hamid Bahmani, and I'm answering the second question. The question is, what was South Korea trying to achieve with the trade policies that it implemented from the late 1950s onward? But first, let's see what the policies were. So first, they reduced import tariffs and quotas. Tariffs were about 60% in 1950s, and they reduced it to almost zero in 1980s. So the next step was reducing the number of goods subjected to restrictive import quotas. So about 90% of the produced goods were restrictive and were abandoned to be imported to the countries in 1950s. But in 1980s, they reduced it to almost zero. So almost all the products could be imported to the countries. And also they had export incentives, which was lowering the tax on the export income activities, on export income, and also having an offering low interest financing related to production of goods which were about to be exported. So these two incentives just help the local manufacturer and producer to focusing more on producing items which could be exported. So these are the policies. We go to the question: what were South Korean were about to achieve? The answer is they were trying to raise living standards. But how this raising living standards could be achieved? The answer to the next one is, how did this work? Yes, it worked, and how we were just talking about how it worked. So by opening the door, by opening the door to the imports of goods, the local producer had to compete with the low price and high quality of the products which were produced in other countries. So, with the help of low price labor force in South Korea at that time, in 1950s, they started producing, they took this competitive advantage, and started manufacturing goods which took labor force. And so they use this labor intensive manufactured goods, and they start moving from agriculture to production base. So they started with this labor intensive work, something like textile, clothes manufacturing. So they use these competitive advantages to produce low price and high quality products. And after this time, when little by little the labor prices just increased in South Korea, as you know, we said the living standards just raised, and the wages just raised in South Korea. They moved more into more capital-intensive goods, like producing or manufacturing of steel making factories, ship making, also electronic devices like Samsung and all these things, and automobile and telecommunication. These were more capital intensive and less labor intensive. So in that phase, with the help of moving to more capital intensive and increasing wages, they could just raise the living standards in South Korea. And all this led to export growth in South Korea, and also the living standard I just explained. Right? But totally, all this manufacturing and exporting thing with the help of the new policies and the industries in South Korea led to increase of GDP, gross domestic production, and also increase of export in South Korea. And there is a ratio, which is the ratio of export to GDP. It shows how portion of the total GDP is exported. And besides increasing GDP, increasing export, they also increase the ratio of export to GDP. It shows that even the rate of export increased higher and more than the increase of GDP. So as you know, this opening the doors and just lifting all the barriers and import tariffs and quotas and everything just helped the local producers in South Korea just improve their quality, and so they could just help hand in hand help improve the living standards in Korea. Then thank you very much.
Hi, this is Parul, and I'm here to talk about question 3, which is, what does the relative experience of Ghana and South Korea teach you about the importance of international trade policies? So, back in the year 1970s, the GDP per capita income for both Ghana and South Korea was quite similar. It was around 250 and 260 USD for both of them. But nearly after half century, the GDP per capita income for the South Korea increased to 37,000, whereas for the Ghana it increased to 1,786 only. So talking about Ghana adopted protectionist approach because it wanted to protect their local and domestic manufacturing industries. It imposed heavy import duties on foreign goods and services. So there was no international competition, so there was no technological research and development needed. As a result, the quality of the products was very poor and low to international trades. As a result, in 1990, when Ghana realized its failure in the international trade policies, it started liberalizing in 1990s by abolishing the price restrictions and encouraging privatization. So it shifted away from its inward-oriented trade practice to open market. Now, talking about South Korea. South Korea used open trade practice. It nearly zeroed its import taxes on the goods, and low interest financing for investment in export-oriented industries was highly encouraged by the government. And there was a lot of competition with the global industries, so technological research and development was highly needed, due to which the product of the quality was really good. And slowly, South Korea enterprises moved to more capitalist economy. Thank you.
My name is Bukola Akimbola. I'm in Group 1. I'm answering question 4. Drawing on the case history of Ghana and South Korea, what advice on trade policy would you give a developing nation? And what resistance to your recommendation would you expect? Yeah, I have two advices here. If you look at the Ghana, just like my team member said, if you look at in Ghana's case, after the independence, the first president of Ghana, who is Kwame Nkrumah, made some policies which really affected Ghana. He tried to increase the tariffs on importation just to promote local brands and promote the local companies. But this actually went wrong because it put like a very high tariff. And I will advise that they should lower tariffs to lower trade barriers and engage more in international trade. Let it be like a mixture of the two. While you try to promote the local brands, still try to do some international trade too. Yeah, because this actually affected Ghana in this case. They don't even have enough money in their reserve to settle some international business. And again, I have an example in my home country in Nigeria. There was a time the incumbent President Muhammad Buhari put like a total ban on importation of rice. Nigerians were used to imported rice. He was like, oh yeah, he wanted to promote the local brands. But instead of people taking the local brands, they started smuggling in rice into the country, which made the price of rice to increase from like 25,000 naira to like 50,000 naira, which is not good for the economy because rice is a staple food. He should have taken it as in gradually. While you increase it, still try to help the local companies. But this is the same thing that Nkrumah did in Ghana, which affected Ghana. And secondly, having the knowledge that the nationalization of key industry can lead to inefficiency. Nkrumah in this case was given collecting cocoa from Ghanaian farmers, and he was selling it at high rates at the international trade. But the Ghanaians were angry with this. They were not happy with him. They stopped reduce the production of cocoa, and they were trying to produce other food that could help them even among themselves, and which they can sell within themselves in Ghana. So governments should reduce their involvement. Too much involvement could affect the people, which is the problem Ghanaians face. And these actions actually led to lack of foreign currency for them, which they could not, the lack of currency earning to pay for all their imports, because Ghanaian farmers, they stopped producing cocoa. And we know like most countries buy cocoa, and it is useful and it brings a lot of money to them. But he made all these policies, trade policies, not knowing it could affect its own country. So what are the resistance I will expect from all these advices I have given? For a dictatorship government like the one in Ghana, in most developing countries, they will always want to be in charge of the country, so they might not welcome this idea of lowering trade barriers and engaging more in international trade. And secondly, greed. Like, I am from an African country. I know most Africans are not to be not actually. I am from an African country, but I know most African leaders they have greed, and greed could also be another resistance, which is one of the things that affected the first president of Ghana. So these are my answers to question number 4. Thank you.